Just like, okay, yay, good job. There we go.
It's so quiet in here tonight.
Yeah.
Very unusual.
We need to have elevator music while we're waiting for 6 o'clock to arrive.
Take a nap.
I'm not gonna promise that wouldn't happen.
We got some time before you're up. Let me just give you a little nudge. All right, it's 6 o'clock. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just a reminder for everyone to silence your cell phones, please. We'll start with roll call.
Mayor Sherman.
Here.
Councilor Basil.
Here.
Councilor Guerrero.
Here.
Councilor Lundstrom.
Here.
Councilor Scalisi.
Here.
Councilor Spradlin. Councilor Tyree.
Here.
All right, we have a forum. Approval of the agenda. Does anybody have any additions or corrections on the agenda tonight? If not, I'd look for a motion to approve.
Move that we approve the agenda for the regular meeting of February 26, 2024.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Councilor Scalisi.
Yes.
Councilor Guerrero.
Yes.
Councilor Lundstrom.
Yes.
Councilor Basil.
Yes.
Councilor Tyree.
Yes.
Mayor Sherman.
Yes. All right, that motion passes. Everyone's had a chance to look through our minutes of our last meeting. Are there any corrections or revisions? If not, I'd look for a motion to approve the minutes.
I move we approve the regular meeting of February 12th, 2024.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Councilor Tyree.
Yes.
Councilor Basil.
Yes.
Councilor Lundstrom.
Yes.
Councilor Guerrero.
Yes.
Councilor Scalisi.
Yes.
Mayor Sherman.
Yes. That motion passes. We'll move on to visitors and delegations. Citizens are invited to speak to council on any item that does not have a public hearing scheduled. There's a 5-minute time limit per person unless otherwise noted by the mayor. Please note that no formal action will be taken on an item that is not on the posted agenda due to the open meetings law provision. However, they may be placed on a future posted agenda if action is required. To better assist you with questions, please submit questions in writing to the city clerk and someone from staff will respond. Do we have anyone here who would like to address council? All right, we'll move on to management. Monty Torres on city attorney.
Okay, in your packet, there is a memo that came from the city attorney, and it is, it was handed out at the last meeting, but we put it in the packet this time, and essentially, it's a request for a rate increase from the law firm. We've been paying $175 per hour, and the request to go to $195 per hour, and that's the first time in 4 years that we've seen an increase in that. And my recommendation is to approve the rate increase, but it is the council's decision, but I do recommend it.
All right. Would anybody like to make a motion on this one?
I move we approve the city attorney rate increase.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, roll call vote.
Councilor Basil.
Yes.
Councilor Lundstrom.
Yes.
Councilor Tyree.
Yes.
Councilor Scalisi.
Yes.
Councilor Guerrero. Mayor Sherman.
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you, Dan, for taking such good care of this. All right, next we have Dale Colrick on a final pay settlement.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. So first item that I have for council tonight will be the final settlement for GNC Potts Welding LLC, and that was for the Brush Commons utility relocation project. Because of North Point being installed where they were going to install it, our existing utilities and easements were in their footprint. And so being able to take and relocate our utilities as part of our incentive for them to build where they were building. And as such, everything came in. They did a fantastic job. I mean, spot on when it comes to elevation, slope, everything. So it was really, really good. They did a great job. And all the work passed. I did print in the newspaper on February 7th as well as February 14th for any potentially outstanding bills that may be against this particular project. And I believe as of 5 o'clock today, we have not received any such claims. Plus, I also got the contractor's affidavit that he's paid everyone. So with that, we still have their retainage, which is a 5%, and it's in the amount of $6,194.40. And I'm recommending council pay the retainage on this project.
Very
Any
good.
questions, comments?
Thank you, Dale. I'll look for a motion on this one.
Move that we approve the final pay settlement for the Brush Village 2 utility relocate.
Second?
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Counselor Guerrero,
Yes.
Counselor Tyree,
Yes.
Counselor Lundstrom,
Yes.
Counselor Scalisi,
Yes.
Counselor Basil,
Yes.
Mayor Sherman.
Yes. That motion passes. The next one is also Dale on the asphalt preservation project.
Sure, thank you. So we put out this year earlier than usual in an attempt to get more bidders for our asphalt preservation projects. We have quite a few streets we're trying to get caught up on. We got behind here in the last couple of years. Winter from 22 to 23 was particularly tough. And, but as it were, we only received one bid, and that was from A1 Chip Seal Rocky Mountain Pavement for a total of $332,935.35. We've used A1 Rocky Mountain before. They do a fantastic job. They do a really good job for us. And so this was the only bid that we received. It came well under what my anticipated target was, so, because we still have some more other things that we need to be doing with our, with this 2A money yet this year. And so with that, just as a quick rundown, we have several different types of preservation that we do to our streets. One is the typical crack sealing. And that's pretty much what we're doing right now. You've been seeing it over here on Custer Street, Cameron, Carson. And that's where we put in a rubberized tar down inside cracks, kind of fill them in, keep the moisture from getting up underneath them. The next type of preservation we use is what we call a fog seal. Think of it more like lotions for your hand. I mean, all it's doing is just rejuvenating the asphalt with a lot of the volatile organics that tend to evaporate off throughout time. The next type of preservation we're going to be doing is what we call slurry seal, and that's what a lot of this project's going to be. Slurry seal is an emulsion of water and oil and sand. And so what they'll do is we'll make sure the streets are all cleaned, all the patches need to be done, all the cracks are filled, and then what they'll do is they'll come through and they'll spread this out in about a 1/4 inch thick layer. And as the water tends to evaporate out, then it leaves behind this oil and sand mixture as a top coating or a top dressing to that roadway. And then the final type of preservation we use is chip sealing, and that's, I think we've all seen that before, where they put tar straight down on the road and then they put chips over the top of it, so that way cars don't go sliding off and everything else. Although it's not really good for your windshields, it's really good for where you have high truck traffic in the roads, and it'll give you another 10, 15 years on the road by chip sealing. So anyway, the areas that you should have a handout. I was supposed to do it, but I'm computer challenged tonight, so it's not going to work. So the first area that we're going to be doing is Howell Avenue. We've noticed quite a few of those big wide cracks throughout the city. You drive on them and you thump, 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 thump. So they went through and they've cut out a lot of those last year and started patching up those. And plus they did some, some crack fill on that crack seal. And so we're going to try and bring this road back up to a really good condition. The next area is going to be this Samples Howells Loop, and that's north of Emerson Street. And it's starting to show, again, those widening cracks. Our crews, once they finish crack sealing, they're going to go out there. We're going to be cutting out these cracks, getting them ready to go, so when the asphalt plants open up and we can start getting hot mix and bulk volume, then we'll go out there and we'll pull those out and we'll patch those back with asphalt. And then once the slurry goes over the top of it, you should never even notice the difference. It'll be nice and smooth, the way it should be. The next area that we're going to be looking at is over here at the Westwood second development there, Yosemite, Yellowstone, Carlsbad, and a small section of Edmonds. And I apologize, I know the comment was made about the old photos, but these old photos, they're aerial overflights, and I can calculate right down to the square foot. I mean, within a square foot by utilizing these photographs. The next page, on page 3, you'll see that we're going to do Princeton Court and as well as Brush Village. Both these two areas here have have serious big widening cracks in them. So we'll get those corrected as well.
I have a quick question for
Sure.
you. How long does it take?
Pardon?
Like per street, how long does it take?
A lot of it's going to be dependent on, I would say typically after several hours.
Okay.
You know, once you put it down, it'll take a couple of hours for that water to evaporate out where you can drive on it.
Okay.
And so a lot of it's going to be temperature dependent as well. So the hotter it is, the shorter the window, the colder it is, the longer it's going to take for it to evaporate out, plus atmosphere, the moisture content in the air, what's the humidity. So yes, we will, people will be kind of inconvenienced for a couple hours at a whack.
I just ask particularly because of Howell Avenue with the seniors that live there and the assistants that come in to help
Mhm.
them. That's the only reason that I asked on that one. But then on Weisbart,
Mhm.
is the trucks from the new apartment, are they just gonna ruin what you're doing?
No, this will occur after they are done.
Okay.
This will occur after they are done. Plus, we do have, and we will visit with the ditch company to try to make sure that people can try to get to where they need to go and get back to their houses. But again, it's not a very long time that it takes for this to cure.
Yeah, I was thinking you were gonna say like a day or two.
Oh, no. That'd be run out on a rail if I did something like that. Next area is another place that's got some pretty serious cracks, wide cracks in it, and that is Bunker Hill area. We're talking about Boulevard, Little Road, Christopher Corday Avenue, and we'll be getting on those as well. And then finally, what you'll see is in the center part of town. 3 years ago, we were able to do our east-west streets completely. And now it's a matter of trying to do those north and south sections, get those recoded. So we got a little behind, like I said, between the weather and other factors. So we'll be doing that, and that'll take care of this part of town. Keep in mind that we like to rotate out where we're doing this every year. Try to spread the 2A monies throughout the town. And so in upcoming years, we're going to be concentrating on the east side and the south side, as well as South Railway. And then we'll start getting things back into a rotation. But keep in mind, the condition of the road will also dictate if it gets moved up a year or put back a year as well, because we can't let a road fail, and because it's not in a rotation. It's more expensive to try to replace it than it is to correct it out of cycle. So, and this typically will add about 8 years, 9, 10 years to a roadway. At some point in time, you will notice over here, over on Carson Street, we've got those 2 sections of roadway that have islands on it. And what we're going to do is, I checked with Sun Hall and I haven't gotten a price back, but there's so much of this slurry seal that you can put on, because after time, then it'll start spalling, and it'll start popping up. And so you need to come in there and plane that off, and then put a fresh coat back down after we've repaired the roadway. So, that's still coming up yet on this one, so. You have any questions, comments?
They're not gonna do anything to those islands, are they? They're just gonna leave-
No, they will be left alone.
Okay.
We're just gonna make the roads nice.
Awesome.
We did that in front of Central School, because it was getting really bad.
Right.
So we had our crews go in there and plane that down as well, but it's pretty resource intensive, and so it's just better if we contract out to a company that does this for a living, like Sun Hall.
You were taking samples out one time, and a bunch of the neighbors, they called me. They were gonna go away, so that's why I asked. Yeah.
No, and I do apologize about that. There was an employee that used to work for the city who, I don't know why he got it in his head that he was the one who made mention that, oh yeah, we're taking these out, but he had no background information, authorities, or anything like that. They just started to stink was all,
Yeah.
so. But, no, the islands will stay.
Cool.
Yeah, those are landmarks.
Dale, you said we've used this company before,
Yes,
and you're supremely confident?
yes.
Okay. The
Very
reason I
much.
ask, I did a quick Google review
Mhm.
search. Their most recent reviews weren't that great, but
Mhm.
do we have does the city crew go out there and kind of like make sure that they're not?
Yeah, we observed, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Well, I'm sorry that somebody had a bad experience with them, because we've always had really good
Yeah.
luck with these guys.
Gotcha.
And they're the only ones to put a bid in anyway, right?
Pardon?
Nobody else put a bid in? They're
Nobody
the
else
only
put a
ones?
bid in.
So,
But it was out there, because I got inquiries from Dodge Report and Construct Connect and a lot of these companies, so it's not like it wasn't out there. It's
Yeah.
just, they were the only ones who put in for it. But I'm gonna try, we were going to try to do Sourcewell, but by the time I was able to navigate through that Sourcewell process, it was too late to get that out there, because Sourcewell is another outfit that the city can utilize to help try to get these bids out there. But by the time you put together your package and your specs and everything, and then you send it off to that company, and then they'll go through and review it, and it was just too late in the game as far as the bid schedule goes. So that was my mistake, and I know now that are educated, get it in way before you can put it out for bid.
One note for the council is we have about 3 to 5 years of very heavy street work that's coming up. And it really comes back to last year's winter was pretty rough. Then the spring was a lot of rain. So with everything wet, we couldn't even fix what we needed to get fixed. But in our priorities for the city council, 3 to 5 years, heavy street work throughout the community. And so that's why I asked Dale to give you a really good view of where we're going to be doing this work, because then this should hold up for a while. Then Dale's going to move to other parts of the town, as well as we do have a tentative plan to address Mill Street, the hill,
Correct.
going up towards the golf course and the school. It's a very expensive project,
Mhm.
but we're trying to get a lot of, we don't want to take all our money, put it towards one project, and then the rest of the town suffers. So we're spreading it out really well for the next 2 or 3 years, and we'll tackle
So
the
are-
big project.
All these streets for 2024?
Yeah, this
Okay.
is,
This
this year.
is just 2024.
So, yeah, so if you look at it, it's a lot of streets throughout town. And then the next year, we're gonna spread it out further, go different places. And the year before last, I think the center part of town, we went east-west, and now we're going north-south on all the streets.
Is there a plan to get this out to the community, so they kind
We
of
will,
get a
yes.
heads up? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they probably won't, what they asked, when did we want them to come and do this? And I told them as late in the season as possible, that we still get a quality application when it's still warm. And the reason being is we've got, right now, fiber optic companies everywhere, driving everywhere. We're just gonna be stumbling over each other. And if they're doing cores, and so they're potholing to find out where utilities are so they don't hit them, then they're just tearing up what we've just finished fixing. And so it gives our crews an opportunity to finish up our crack sealing now and get these guys out there to get rid of those big monstrous 4-inch wide cracks that have been developing with the pavement over years, so.
I'm not gonna lie, I was looking for Cambridge and Emerson. I was like, well, that'd be silly.
Yes. So, yeah, there's a lot more to be done yet still. And so, questions, comments? And by the way, these guys do a good job. They've done it before where they've gone door to door and let everybody know that, hey, they'll put out no parking signs 24 hours in advance saying, hey, no parking, so we can get in there and get everything swept up, cleaned up, and make sure it's ready for the application, so.
And even though we have barriers up, there will be some people that try to drive around them.
They always do.
And you'll see their tracks going down.
They always do. So, okay, with that, like I say, staff is recommending council award the bid to A1 Chip Seal Rocky Mountain Pavement in the amount of $332,935.35.
Okay. Thank you, Dale. Anybody want to make a motion?
I move that we approve the bid for the 2024 asphalt preservation projects to A1 Chip Seal Rocky Mountain Pavement for a total of $332,935.35.
Second.
Any more discussion? All right, roll call vote.
Counselor Scalisi?
Yes.
Counselor Lindstrom?
Yes.
Counselor Tyree?
Yes.
Counselor Basil?
Yes.
Counselor Guerrero?
Yes.
Mayor Sherman?
Yes. All right, thank you, Dale. Prairie Trails Park Project, Grant Schwintz.
Question?
Yes.
Real quick, because I work for one of the bidding companies, should I recuse myself from this portion?
You work for one of the bidding companies for this upcoming
Mhm.
Parks Trust?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, best.
I would. And thank you for being on top of
Council
that.
Dave. Council Basil.
Well, thank you, Mayor and Council. It's been a long process, but back December 6th, we did receive 2 bids for the Prairie Trails Park project, one from Buildings by Design and another from GNC Potts Welding. Both bids were over what the city had originally budgeted. Buildings by Design had bid $908,657.79, and GNC Potts Welding had bid $631,295.49. Both projects were, like I said, well over what we had anticipated. However, within the bid documents, it does give the bidder that is chosen the ability to negotiate with the city to try to bring down that cost. After talking to Chad Cox at Western Engineering, also Dale has met with Gary at GNC Potts Welding, and we feel there are several items that we can put into a later phase and also do a little bit, use city crews and do a few different things to bring that total cost to be within the city budget. So with that being said, I'd like to answer any questions that you guys might have, but the staff does recommend that we approve GNC Potts Welding for $631,295.49, knowing that negotiations will be taking place to get that closer to the $400,000 range is what we're looking for.
Man, isn't it odd that they're so off in their bids?
Yeah, it's just, it's different contractors they got pricing from, and BBD is a very large organization. GNC Potts Welding is a lot smaller, so their payroll alone's a lot different when it's all said and done and stuff. So, I will say this: both companies I have no issues with. They're both going to do an excellent job. Like Dale said, with a couple of the projects that he's worked with, Gary has done an excellent job, and I've worked with Buildings by Design out at the golf course, and they've also done a bunch of stuff for us. And we have 2 top companies here in Brush, so feel very, very comfortable with GNC Potts Welding.
I have a question. So regardless of who you award the bid to for phase one, there is no guarantees that that particular company would get, say, phase two or phase three?
No, although we did do the whole bid all the way out. With us having to push different items back, that might be actually a question I need to ask Chad, but I do believe that we would still have to rebid a lot of those components. Just because there's going to be so much change by the time we get to that point that we can't really hold anybody on what they had bid originally like that right
Okay.
now.
Cool.
Yeah.
Is there any other questions?
Oh, just more, this is another one of the city council's priorities.
Oh, yes, this is a city council priority, and we were just talking about baseball and girls' fast pitch practices about ready to start, and although it may not help us this year, by the end of the season, if we get these two fields going, it's going to relieve a lot of pressure off our youth ball field, so much needed project.
Do they know when they're gonna be able to start, once the bid is awarded? Immediately?
Yeah, in fact, we had that discussion because I didn't want to interfere with the Cambridge project, but the Cambridge project with school going on, they want to start on this right away, and then once school gets out, move over to the Cambridge project. So this will be something that'll get started immediately.
Awesome.
Would you mind, maybe in a work session, reminding us what phase one is, especially with new counselors?
Yeah,
Okay.
I can give you an overview of it right now.
Well, with David not being
Oh, okay.
here.
Let's do it at a work session.
Okay, sure, no problem.
Because I'm excited too. That was my question: is when is it going to start? But just an overview and a reminder of what phase one is.
Sure.
All right. I'd like to make a motion on this one.
I move they award the bid for the Prairie Trails Park to GNC Potts Welding for $631,295.49.
Second.
Any more discussion? Roll call vote.
Counselor Lindstrom,
Yes.
Counselor Scalisi,
Yes.
Counselor Tyree,
Yes.
Counselor Gural,
Yes.
Mayor Sherman.
Yes. Very good. Thank you, Lance. All right. I'll go get Counselor. Oh, yeah. Let's get Counselor Basil back in there.
Dan, can I ask a question about that last motion? Did we need to include, in there, anything about the fact that that's going to be negotiated because we approved it for an amount?
You can. Essentially, you're approving the contract and then directing staff to work within the parameters of that. So it's kind of a ceiling amount.
I just wasn't sure.
Yeah, just as a matter of clarification, what would happen is we would have a change order which would amount to a deduct.
Okay.
And so there will be a slew of change orders, or at least this first one will have several items. That would be what we've negotiated out of that as a change order, and it's net deduction.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Dale's next with the Farm North lease agreement.
Thank you, Mayor. Every 6 years or so, we try to renew our farm leases. Typically, the water enterprises are done in bulk and mass all at once. We send them out all at once. But this particular farm lease here, which we call Farm North, is our biosolids application site up at the wastewater facility. There are a lot of restrictions that go along with this farm lease, so we keep it very unique. And with that, we put it out for bid back in October of 2023. The reason we put it out for bid back then is because that's when farmers are done with their harvest and they're ready to, start planning for their next year. That's when they're wanting to plan for their next year. One of the problems that we've had with some of these leases is that they always expired on the last day of February. Well, that doesn't do the farmer the farmer any good to try to plan for his next year. So what we've done is we've tried to bring all these farm leases back into a schedule where it's at the end of the cropping season, and before a farmer decides to spend the diesel trying to plow up a field just to know that he's going to lose it. I mean, why would they? So So you'll see that one thing, we did put it out for bid. We had 7 bids come back, but we did bid it out in October. And the current lease held by Don Leonard with Don's Hay Service expires at the end of this month. And so we want to get this new lease into effect so our new lessee can actually start working on that field. We had 7 bids that came in, and they ranged from $15,050 clear up to the highest amount, which was bid, was for $22,006.50, and that was with Maverick Seawald. And so with that, I've looked it all over. And if you average all 7 of those bids together, Maverick's cost was only $3,500 more than the average of all of them. So, they were all very close to each other. We did see quite a bit of an increase on our sprinkler track, which was going for $150, and it's now $205 an acre. So that's pretty good to see that go up. We did have our flood irrigated tracks 1 and 2. Those were going for $100 an acre in our last lease, which was 6 years ago. That's now up to $185 an acre, which is good. And then track D, which is dry land, was the one that really surprised me because that always never went hardly for any money whatsoever. And he was offering $130 an acre for that dry land. So pretty happy with that.
And Dale, we continue to pay the water assessments, but they get the use of the water.
Correct.
On those.
And that's true of all of our farm leases. We do not rely on the farmers to make those assessment payments. So it's a pretty good deal for most farmers, although they will argue with you. And so with that, I recommend awarding this farm lease to Maverick Seawald for a total of $22,006.50.
I have a question.
Sure.
Is it reasonable to change the terms of the lease to be more in line with harvest season? So we're not doing this in February?
That's what we
Yes,
just did.
it is very reasonable because the farmers need to be able to, when these leases
No,
are
that's not what I'm asking.
Hmm.
Like, instead of coming back to this in 6 years in a February, are you changing the terms of it to where it's now gonna be in October?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's the whole idea, is to realign the awards of these leases to be more in sync with the farming practices in this area.
Okay.
All right. Anybody else have any questions? Anybody want to make a motion?
I move that we approve the farm lease to Maverick Seawald for $22,006.50 for the Farm North lease agreement.
Second?
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Counselor Scalisi?
Yes.
Counselor Basil?
Yes.
Counselor Tyree?
Yes.
Counselor Garrell?
Yes.
Counselor Lindstrom?
Yes.
Mayor Sherman?
Yes. All right, that motion passes. Thank you, Dale. Now we've got Tyler Purvis, the roofing bid.
All right, thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, City Council. Well, foremost, I apologize for having to bring this back to you. At our last City Council meeting, this was all done and squared away. If you remember, we had 2 different aspects of the bid. One was for all the asphalt roofs for the city repairs from the hailstorm last June, and then 2 flat roof repairs, which was the fire station and the water shop, catty corner on the block here. So the asphalt one, all is good on that one. We're moving forward with it. However, after council approved it, I was turning it over that night, and I thought, you know what, that bid that they approved, I think actually came in late. And sure enough, I went in the next morning, I think it was December 8th, if I remember the dates right, and Martinez Roofing had sent in all their bids except for one that Friday, and then the Monday, they sent that one in, and I should have just put that one out altogether, because the requirement is have it in by that date, and it's not fair to award someone who didn't play by the rules to get the bid when everybody else did. So we went back and we had already ranked different roofers to do the flat roof. And so I'm coming back to ask if we change the bid from Martinez now to All Seasons Roofing. And as a reminder, all of the criteria that we went through was price was a portion of it, but not only the price. our experience as a building department with them, so communication, how responsive that they've been, whether or not they've been calling in their inspections in a timely manner or calling them in at all. The quality that we've seen, and of course, meeting the RFP criteria, which the first one did not. So I just discussed it with Dan as well, if we need to do anything different. He just said no, me just putting this on the record, and then council, if you guys are good going with this recommendation, which again is All Seasons Roofing and Restoration. They are more than Martinez was, but they are underneath Certus's valuation that they gave, which is the total for the bid is $138,000 for the 2 roofs. So again, I apologize, but bringing this back, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Just so I understand, this is just the flat roofs, not the asphalt roofs?
Correct.
Okay.
Seems fair enough. So did Martinez, did they say anything, or had you
I
not?
didn't even
told them?
contact them.
Okay.
I'll let them know, but I remember them, I had a conversation with them prior to the bid, so.
Okay.
I mean, it is what it is. We'll just have to
Yeah.
get over it. That's on the record, you have to get over it.
It's on the record now. All right, have a motion?
I move that we approve the roofing bid re-award to All Seasons Roofing and Restoration in the amount of $138,000.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Counselor Tyree?
Yes.
Counselor Garrell?
Yes.
Counselor Lindstrom?
Yes.
Counselor Scalisi?
Yes.
Mayor Sherman?
Yes. All right, the
you.
motion passes. Thank you, Tyler. Okay, finance.
Move to approve disbursements payroll for February 16th, 2024 through February 26th, 2024, totaling $333,284.50.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Counselor Basil?
Yes.
Counselor Tyree?
Yes.
Counselor Scalisi?
Yes.
Counselor Garrell?
Yes.
Counselor Lindstrom?
Yes.
Mayor Sherman?
Yes. All right, the motion passes. Staff reports. Tyler, where are you back?
Back up. All right, so 4 items tonight. The first one is just a heads up that a few weeks ago, the mayor had signed a letter for us because we had to get it in for a participating in the Northeast Colorado Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan. Essentially, all the FEMA's looking to work on all the entities that want to participate in updating our hazard mitigation plan, and so we had the mayor sign a letter of our desire to participate within that. So things will be coming in the future. Washington County's taking the lead on that. But that's just a quick update on that, if there's any questions. The second one, on a similar vein, floodplain, we had a meeting today. Dale and I participated along with a couple of representatives from Morgan County, the town manager from Wiggins. Morgan was not there, but they weren't too relevant for the discussion. And then representatives from Colorado Water Conservation Board, FEMA, and the engineering firm that they brought on for that, which is Michael Baker. You'll probably hear their name a lot over the next couple of years. And it was kind of a kickoff meeting. If you remember, I mentioned a couple weeks ago that we met with them as well, but that was a brush specific one just to touch base on the history of it and staff's thoughts and ideas, and based on what we understand about some of the data and how questionable it is. And so this one was for everybody, just understanding what the scope is going to be for the entire project, because it will be throughout the county, but not the entire county, just certain components of it. They're going to utilize the newest data that they have, which is 2018 LiDAR data that was part of what they did here last time, but the rest of the data collection was based on old methods and old numbers. So the rest of that's all going to be done with brand new methods and new numbers to try to understand a better floodplain map for the city of Brush. From what I remember in that last meeting in November, they said 12 to 18 months. But as they put the timeline up today, it wasn't until 2027 that they expect this to be done. So over the next 3 years, they'll be working on a very slow process. It'll be very data heavy, and of course, they're going to give each of the communities that are participating the opportunity to provide feedback once they get their data together. They're going to ground test it, was the phrase that they used, so that way we can even put it out to the community. This is what they're saying, and then people can come in if they have viable information that can be a factor in that. So as part of that, the 1965 flood, and I'll put it out on social media and our website, if anyone in the community has any pictures or any substance about what that looked like that they can add to their research to determine what might have been the factors involved with that flood. Heard a lot of different stories, you probably have too, as to what really caused the flooding. So aside from just people saying that, if there's anything that's factual as far as they can prove this or that, that would be very, very beneficial. So that'll be forthcoming over the next couple of years. Any questions on that? All right, and then the tree board, I mentioned this last time, but I'll mention it again because it's a short window, but we are doing our tree program once again. And we'll probably just go through the end of this week where we are offering free trees to property owners for their front yard and then discounted 50% shared cost with the city of Brush for trees in their backyard based on budget allowances. And then the last item is that last week, the Colorado Main Street program, which is through the Department of Local Affairs, they have an annual visit with the Chamber of Commerce. And so they came out just to find out what's happening here in Brush, to touch base on the board, with the board on some of the changes that are coming overall. And those are good, positive conversations because they've provided a lot of support through the Chamber through the years. The Brush Chamber is a graduate community, and the Colorado Main Street program is part of a national Main Street program as well. And so a lot of the elements and some of the funding comes through there just to revitalize downtowns and Main Street areas and districts is the idea. And as part of that, they did make some revisions to their MOU. And so staff level will be looking at that, and that will, I believe, come to City Council for formal approval at some point. That's all I got.
What's a backyard tree cost in ballpark at 50% discount?
With 50% discount, $170, depending on the tree. Some trees are cheaper and some are not so much.
Is there quite a variety of trees available?
Yeah, we're looking at, I think we have a total of 15 trees for people to choose from evergreens and then ornamental trees and then medium and large deciduous trees. Is that the right word? Does that make me sound fancy?
It does.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, David. Lane Schwint, Director of Community Services.
A couple things. As you know, last week, or was it the week before last, we had our Active Older Adult Breakfast over at the high school. It was actually very well attended. We had 47 people that had showed up to the breakfast. I thought it went better than I was expecting. I mean, there was a lot of people. We had a survey they filled out. We have a lot of people interested in helping out and serving on committees and everything like that moving forward. Got a lot of issues that people see out there to the forefront, and we just talked about what we can do to provide more opportunities for the active older adult populations and just facilities that can be used to accommodate that. And one great thing, there was a person that stood up and said, I don't know if we need new facilities, we just need to utilize the public facilities that we have at this point. And that breakfast was a great case in point. The cafeteria there was an excellent location for us to have that particular breakfast and meeting. And so I think if we just utilize our city facilities, whether it be the golf course, whether it be the JC building, maybe be creative with the old fire hall still, and then also the school being able to utilize their cafeterias, their auditoriums, and just different things. I think, you know, the public has put a lot of money into those facilities, and so why recreate the wheel by building new facilities and everything like that? So very excited. I'm still going through all the surveys right now. There was, you know, quite a few. They had quite a few different ideas. So when I get that, I'd like to give you guys a full report on that, and then start moving forward with getting the committee started and going from there. So that was the breakfast. As far as stuff that's going on right now, we are basketball ends this Sunday, and we start baseball on Tuesday of next week. So baseball will get started, so we're still taking registrations for all those kids 4 years old to 12 years old. Also taking registration for girls fast pitch, and that's from 14 years old down to 9 years old. And so we'll be starting that season, like I said, next week. Other things going on at the golf course. Well, I guess one side note, the great weather. Last year, we had, I think, a total of 4 rounds of golf played in January and February. This past Sunday, we had 78 golfers. Just the weather has just, everybody's been out there to play and everything, so that's been a really good thing for the golf course. But speaking of the golf course, we do have a puzzle contest that we are going to try on March 17th. We only have 1 spot left, so if you have a team of 4 or 5 that are good at puzzles, just give me a call and we can get you signed up for that. The day before that, on March 16th, we will have our 18th annual St. Patrick's Day race over there at the park, at Memorial Park. And so, again, we'll have green beer and corned beef and cabbage, and we'll have live music being played that day. And then on March 9th, we actually have karaoke being played over at the golf course that evening from 6:30 to 9 o'clock at night. And then to round out March, I know I'm jumping all over the month there, but March 23rd, and Larry can talk about it a little bit more, but we will have our 4th comedy show of the season. And he can tell you about who the comedian is and everything else, but we're looking forward to that. So once March comes, it's full speed ahead. So we're looking forward for a busy summer. So thank you.
Awesome.
Any questions? All right.
Thank you, Lance. Dale Clark, Director of Public Works.
Thank you, Mayor. Some of the bigger things going on right now, as I spoke to earlier, is the crack sealing of our streets. Our street crews have been getting out there and trying to get that knocked out as much as possible. We've got the good weather right now. It's still cool enough that the cracks are opened up, that we can get the material in it and still not freeze or like today maybe get blown away. It was kind of a little difficult day for those guys. And plus, whenever they get a point where they can't do any of the crack sealing, then they'll get in there and they'll do some patching as well. So just keep an eye out for our crews out on the streets. Other things I want to touch base on real quick. There was a question about CDOT lights being out. And as it were, I did reach out to the local CDOT maintenance outfit, and those are over by the interstate. All those lights are owned by CDOT. Even though XL provides the electrical for them, they are maintained by a subcontractor that XL has come out and take a look at them whenever there's a reported problem. The one specifically that was brought up about over exit 90, I did speak with local maintenance, and she indicated to me that that particular breaker box gets vandalized on a regular basis. Somebody gets in there, clips off the lock, and then shuts off the breakers. And it's not just a one-time thing, so I'm let them do their own investigations, but I was assured that they were going to go out and take a look at it again just to make sure. So if you call XL Energy to report those lights out, it's not going to do any good. Just get me the word, and I'll get over to CDOT maintenance and just bring it to their attention and let them take care of it, because they have an electrical outfit come out and do the maintenance on those things. Then we've got 2 more oversized loads coming through on Friday. That's the current tentative date, because last time it got dragged out over and over and over again. These are not going to be quite as spectacular as the last couple, but we are going to take a look at it. One thing that staff we're going to be working on is trying to permit these oversized loads coming through town. Currently, we don't have a permitting system. But I think we're at a point where I think we do need to have some, because we do tend to put out some manpower to help navigate these guys over the quiet zone, removal of signs, reinstallation of the signs, and such. And so we'll be looking, right now, we're just going to be trying to quantify how many man hours we're putting towards these oversizes coming through, any potential damages that may occur and such. And so we're going to be working on a permitting system along that line to help reimburse our costs for these loads to come through town. Even though they do tend to park either over by the park or up north over by the Tomahawk or the Shell station there, they do spend a little bit of money here, but all the same, I think we we don't get a good enough return on that, so we'll be working on that. And then working with the fiber optic companies in town, trying to keep their projects moving along as fast as they can, so they can get in here and get done and get out. And so that's also kind of important. We did have a situation where we did have a fiber crew strike one of our water mains, and as such, we did get it repaired, and I do want to thank the water crews here lately. Seems like whenever there's a water break, it either happens really at night or on the weekends. So I can't explain it. But one of the things, the fiber crews, you know, when they do strike our utilities, we will be seeking reimbursement for those. And so I've been looking at our current rates. They haven't been updated since 2017, so they're 7 years old at this point. And so I've been downloaded the FEMA rates to look to see what they're charging, also look at the Brown Book rates to see what our equipment goes for. And I think that we had mentioned either internally in our staff too, that we need to be looking at our personnel costs and make sure that we're properly recovering those costs, because when these guys go out, we have to pay them overtime in the middle of the night to fix the water. So you'll probably be seeing those updated fees come through as well.
I have a question about that.
Sure.
How are these lines being marked? And are they being marked by maps? I'm just curious how they're being marked.
Which lines? The fiber optic lines, our water lines or sewer lines?
Our water and
lines
sewer
that they're
lines.
hitting.
Yeah, we mark those. We mark them specifically, and these were marked.
Okay, because
Yes.
like the sewer line in my yard was mismarked, and they found it when they started digging.
Mhm.
So that's why I'm asking.
Well, with the sewer lines like that, we rely on televising reports that there's so many feet downstream from a manhole, and that's what we go off of. And so, but again, you can be within, 18 inches either way. So.
What's the gross weight of one of those oversized loads, do you know?
The ones that came through, the two that came through last time, those were 330,000 pounds apiece.
You might put that in the permit too. That's some wear and tear on the road, huh?
Yeah.
Do they have to get permits from the railroad to go over the trucks?
No, but they do have to notify them when they're coming through, and the railroad will dictate to them when they're coming through. So you don't hold up Amtrak for that.
Yeah.
The one that's coming through on March 25th, 720, I think 728,000, something like that, 728,000. But keeping in mind that the trailers that these things are moving on have enough axles that, axle weight, they'll be compliant. These that are coming through later on this week, they're not really all that big. They are oversized. They're going to be taller than they are anything else. So.
And a blue whale is about 300,000 pounds.
Fun fact.
Fun fact.
Blue whales coming in winter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Joanne Gosling, Finance Director.
I just have one real quick item. At the last council meeting, we had talked about the personnel fees that we had charged Cogen for the fire that we put out over at Cogen this last year. And I was doing research on that, have finished my research, determined that that is a nominal fee that we did charge. And so I am going to pay out 10 firemen for the nominal fee of being a part of assisting with that fire. And their checks will go out tomorrow.
So they each get paid individually. Okay,
Yeah.
very
We'll
good.
And
pay
it's
them
not a
each and-
payroll check.
It is not a payroll
Nominal
check.
fee.
It's an accounts payable check. If it goes over $600 in a year, we will send them a 1099. Right now, none of these would be over $600. And I'm going to reverse them back to 2023. So they would have 2024 fresh.
Very good.
Okay?
Thank you, Joan. Miranda Becker, City Clerk.
Just a reminder of the special meeting this Thursday for SURSA training starts at 6 o'clock. We anticipate it'll only be about an hour and a half, and we will provide a light supper. And then also I put a chamber flyer at your place settings tonight. This was provided by Joanne. Please ignore the part in there where it's asking for a donation. That was already taken care of on the staff level. These were provided for you to be able to see the events that are going on and what their recap was for 2023. And then as a reminder, on the CML conference, we have you, everybody who plans to go, we have rooms reserved for you. That was the big rush, important part. Now we need to get you registered for the conference because really we're not supposed to reserve those rooms until you're registered. So if we can work on that this week, I would really appreciate that. So, and then that's all I had.
I just have a question of clarity
Mhm.
for Monty, really on that topic. Just clarify for council, because spouses have typically been paid for conference, and then this year they are not according to the email. And so I just want to make sure there's some clarity there and what happened.
Yeah, Lorraine and I talked about that a little bit, and so historically, the city did not pay for spouses, and then I think it was just last year, Lou, is that right? Last year that we just totally missed it, and then we paid for them, and then afterwards, I think.
I had missed it in my entire
The
role
2 or
as
3
city
years?
clerk,
Oh,
and then I
okay.
had a conversation with Joanne last year when we were so far into it that I couldn't go, oh, by the way, you all owe for your spouses. So that's why I put it out there from the very beginning this year.
Okay.
So now that's something the council can always say they want to do it different, but I did, just out of curiosity, I had a city-county managers meeting for Northeast Colorado, and the last thing I asked them at that meeting was just, how do they do it with the spouses? And they said all of them said spouses pay their own way if they're registered. Now, if you go, you're in the same room, no worries, but as far as going to the actual conference, registering, the additional conference meals, that's where they require the spouse to pay for their way.
Yeah, no, I guess there was some concern that I might be the one to bring it up, so I thought I might as well be the one to bring it up. I actually agree that spouses aren't paid for in the sense that they're just going to go. They're not attending conferences. It's different for like the fire conferences. When spouses attend, we have our own track. We have our own classes that we are going to. We have our own things that we are learning. The spouses don't have that at CML. So I just wanted some clarity and wanted it on the record. Thank you.
That's all I have. Thank you. All right, Dan Cobb, City Attorney.
I just wanted to thank you guys all for the support. I hate doing that. Probably see it again in about 8 to 10 years, hopefully. And then there's been some recent litigation on councils going into executive session. I've talked with CIRSA about that, and I just earlier today gave an email that said, here's the approved script to avoid that. I'm not worried about you guys at all. I mean, you guys are already recusing yourself and really not doing anything that gives me any caution, but I figured I'd bring it to your attention. And so if you see a change in your executive session script, that's why.
We can be ahead of the game in the next work session, just have the information you sent today available. We can just cover it, make sure everyone's clear.
Perfect.
Very good. That's it? All right, Lonnie Doris.
Okay, a few items. First one is, we did have a really good meeting last Friday with the fire department, and we covered a number of their projects, and we went over everything from budgeting, the bid process, and kind of the general scope of each of those projects and where our crews can maybe help out, take some of the burden off the volunteers. And so it went really well. And I was there long enough to get everything kicked off and get things coordinated, but we also have Patrick Heisler, who's available to help them out in any way that they can. And then just as we go along, we're just going to offer whatever help we can to make life easy for them. And so that went pretty well.
Who was in that meeting, Monty?
The chief and assistant chief, Dale, Tyler, Patrick, myself, Joanne. Now, we covered all bases, and I think you were gonna get the purchasing policy to them, or Dale did before they left, so they understood those. And if they have any questions, they can get with Joanne. But we covered a lot of those different items, and, but a lot of it are decision points that they've got to make on when they need help and those type of things. But we're there to give them a hand where needed. Also, over the weekend, a small group of us went to a state coordinated meeting just to discuss property taxes, and with the increase in real estate prices and the thought about a lot of extra money that cities, counties are getting for property taxes. One of the things that we really discussed was at a municipal level, for Brush anyways, we really didn't see a huge increase in property taxes. Couple reasons, but the other piece of it is a year or so ago, we had a big decline in property taxes. So what we did gain over this year, for this year, it's really just kind of balanced it out for us. So we haven't seen a lot.
Is this what prompted the property taxes post on Facebook?
Yes.
Yes, because I think Tyler was trying to educate a little bit. And just because that was another topic that came up, is probably some good education on property taxes would be good, as well as at our level, understanding state assessed properties and how they come up with the formulas for those. And we did get some good, a little bit of community feedback, and then just from different people's points of views about certain topics. And that commission that's put together, I believe it was 7 meetings throughout the state. This was their final one, and then they were going to make some recommendations and go from there. I also mentioned, I just mentioned a few minutes ago that I went to Tyler and I went to the Northeast Colorado City County Managers Group, and that's where all of the Northeast Colorado City managers, county managers, and administrators, we rotate around and have a meeting a couple times a year. And we just talk about local issues, challenges. My recollection was probably amongst all, housing was still one of the challenges, or if it wasn't a challenge, everyone was on a certain path to trying to identify additional housing for their communities, and everyone was in different phases of it. So from those who were really in need to those that were really building on housing already. So I felt like we were right in the middle of those with our current apartment complex being constructed, the central school, as well as the potential of a large subdivision on the west side of town. So we're probably sitting just about right with everyone else. Other discussions, some had challenges with swimming pools, aging swimming pools, how much money to put into those pools. There's also discussion about illegal immigration, and some Northeast Colorado communities believing that there are some illegal immigrants and some being bused into their communities. But then we ended up, that discussion is probably more fact-finding is needed before decisions are made. And a little bit of other discussions about just costs in general going up for operations. Other thing I'll mention is we have 2 burned down houses, structures in town, and Dan and I are working on one now, and we're going to see if we can find some solutions to that one on Circle Drive. We always like to try and let property owners take care of things themselves. This situation is very unique where the owner has been deceased for a number of years. No one's really taken claim to the structure. It's on the tax rolls for different liens, and in order to clean it up, the city may have to take additional steps, and we're reviewing those now to see what direction to go. But it's been years now. We want to address that. Then we have the one on Colorado Avenue that we'll start having discussions on as well. There's also been a couple meetings in the last few weeks in regards to the comm center, and that's where the commissioners have, a commissioner presented for the county some thoughts on the comm center. I'll be visiting with the comm center director tomorrow along with the police chief, and then later this week, myself and Dell representing Hillrose and other communities, we're going to get together, have another discussion with the county commissioner, talk about the comm center and long-term viability of the comm center. And so we'll see where that goes, but I'll keep you posted as soon as we get to narrowing down the alternatives. Last thing is, no, two more things. Last few months are, well, between finance, myself, HR, we talked a little bit about overtime, and we do pay out quite a bit of overtime each year. And then we start having a series of meetings with the department heads just to talk about solutions on how to lower our overtime, because it was getting, pretty high. Either right under or right over $200,000 a year on overtime. So we have, just amongst the department heads and myself, we have a goal of reducing that by 50% this year. So we're gonna see how we can do. We need overtime for water lines, situations in the clerk's office, or law enforcement. Everyone's got different reasons why they need overtime here or there, but we just thought we had unique situations last year, and then also if we did a little bit of work towards it, better flexing time, we might be able to save a little bit of money in the future. Now, last thing is the ARPA funds. We are pretty close at developing our final plan of how we're going to utilize all the funds. We really should use those funds by the end of the year. If another project is going to, or if a project is going to roll over the next couple years, we can probably do something in writing that really obligates the funds towards a project. So after this week, we're going to be, or during this week, we're going to be meeting with Lance and Dale, Joanne and I, and just talking about, what funds we've used to date, what's remaining, and how we can best use those for Cambridge Street or the Prairie Trails Park, what other projects we might have out there, just so we know where we stand. So we hope to have, by next meeting, report back to you of where we stand as of in 2 weeks and where we plan to go with the rest of those funds. One last item. Darla sent out a Camp Resiliency Leadership Academy, and it's how to make your community more resilient, have those discussions. And part of this is you can either go as an individual or you can take a team. And so you have to kind of apply to go into this, because they can't take care of everyone. There'll be too many people. But team to 3 to 5 from each community we can apply for. So we're going to go through a little bit more discussions at the staff level to see who's going to go. And then we'll probably invite a council member to attend as well. So we'll see. It's a full day camp. So we'll see if we get selected for it, and then we'll let the council know. That's all I have.
Monty, on the comm center, I'm sure that you remember that I wasn't really happy about discussing the comm center previously with the staffing issues at the ambulance service. However, it's been good for months, so I think it's definitely time that we move on to new discussions regarding the county and what we're helping them, because it seems the ambulance service is doing quite well.
Super. Sounds good.
Very good. Mayor and council reports. Does anybody have anything to report?
Just Lance was talking about the comedy show. John Notice that'll be here. He's probably one of the most experienced comedians that we do book. He's been doing it for years. He's known as the hippie man. He's a cleaner comic, so that's good, because we've had a few raunchy ones show up. I didn't know. But the main point of that comedy show is to bring business out there to the golf course, because it is one of our things. So, and I will brag on the staff. All that food looked awesome coming out of the kitchen, how they dressed it up, how they presented it. It looked really, really good. So probably started taking pictures of it and putting it online. I mean,
I was shocked. I was shocked for as bad as the weather was tonight, how many people came out into it.
And that food all looked amazing coming out. The staff really were on their toes. So it turned out to be really well that night. So, yeah.
I'll let them know.
Yeah, and like I said, support it every time. I mean, word of mouth guys too. That place is open for business all except Mondays, and well, it's just Thursday
right now,
too.
Mondays, Tuesdays. Once March 15th comes, that's kind of when the official golf season starts. Then our hours will kind of go back to what we normally have.
It's a great place to have dinner, man. So please remind people, That's all I got.
Very good.
Remember
Anybody else? I don't have anything either. All right. So on that note, I would look for a motion to adjourn so we can move into our work session.
Over again.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, we're adjourned. We're going to our work session.
Is that right?
I like a little